friends. Today we're going to be talking about the Natasha Denona Holiday Collection, but before we get into that, I want to welcome you back to my channel, or if you are new here, then welcome. My name is Kara. I'm a 40-year-old professional with 2 kids and a massive love of makeup. On my channel, we like to mix beauty, brains with the occasional F-bomb. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, just keep watching. Before we get into the Natasha Denona, I have to say I got 2 exciting deliveries today. One obviously was the holiday collection, and the other was this guy. That's my merch! And it's just so stinking cute. So if you're interested in any of my merch, I do have other non-Halloween stuff as well. It is linked in the description box down below. Now, that's not what you came here for, but that's what you got. Okay, let's move on to these products. So I did pick up the entire collection. So I do have the highlighter, the mini palette, and then there's also a duo of lipsticks. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to structure this just like my MAC video that I just did. Let's talk about the lipsticks, then the highlighter, and then the eyeshadow. I also filmed this look, so I'll show you a demo. And again, much like the MAC video that I just put up, this one is a first impressions, so look for me to talk about these products again later on, either in a rapid reviews kind of video, or maybe I'll do something at the end of the month where I just talk about everything that I've picked up this month. If you're interested in that kind of video, let me know and I can start incorporating them on my channel. All right, so the lipsticks. There are 2 of them, as I said, and I really like the packaging of them. I've talked about the original I Need a Nude lipstick packaging before, and not in a super positive way. While I do like that it is magnetic and I do like just the clean line of it, it's a white metal and it's really nothing fancy. For a brand that I view as being fancy, I expected more from the packaging. These ones didn't deliver, but these ones definitely do. I'm going to hold them back here because if I bring them too close, because they're so reflective, the camera doesn't know what to do with the light. But you should be able to see that they are actually a different tone. So one is far more rose gold and the other one is more like a deep copper. And I can't say that there's a super noticeable change on the inside when it comes to the actual lipsticks themselves, but I will bring them out to show them regardless. So there they are. This shade here is called Maria, and I do like the Natasha Denona numbering system or naming system. So this is actually 30 NP Maria, and it is described as a light rosy nude with a neutral pink undertone, which is what that NP stands for. Over here, this one is Andrea, and it is 10 NB, which is described as a light nude beige with a neutral beige undertone. This is the lipstick that I'm wearing here. On the Natasha Denona website, that's why I keep looking down as I have it up on my laptop here, it has a whole list of benefits. So these lipsticks are vegan, they have a lightweight creamy formula, which I completely agree with. They have a softly luminous finish, they're deeply hydrating, they have a comfortable wear, luxurious texture, they're paraben-free, cruelty-free, fragrance-free, gluten-free, and they are made in Italy. I think there is a little bit of a fragrance, but that's likely just the ingredients. Like, they're not perfumed in any way, but you certainly can smell something. It's just not an overpowering scent at all. These lipsticks, if you're familiar with the original I Need a Nude lipsticks, they feel very much the same. They are very creamy, they are very hydrating. They do have a nice sheen without being super glossy on the lips. And overall, they're just a very comfortable wear. The duo retails for $45 US, or you can buy them individually for $25 each. All right, so then that brings us to the highlighter. So this is the I Need a Nude Glow highlighter. Oh, she's so pretty. I'm not gonna lie, it hurt to swatch this. Like, I did not want to destroy the beautiful imprint that this highlighter had, but I had to do it, so I did. And I'm going to insert a clip of me applying it, so I'll let that play as I'm talking. The benefits that are listed on the Natasha Denona website for the highlighter are that it has a hydrating emollient formula which works on any skin type or texture, has a featherweight, long-wearing formula that feels like a second skin. It's comfortable all-day wear, and it's buildable to allow a variety of layering techniques. There are 10 grams of product in the pan. It's described as a nude champagne. I will say this is probably the deepest of the highlighters that I own. I did compare it to the Amrezy palette from ABH as well as Champagne Pop. I would say that this one is not particularly comparable to Champagne Pop, although the level of intensity is pretty similar, but it is fairly close to the Amrezy palette, although Amrezy pulls a little bit more gold on my skin as opposed to this one. As you can see, it is what I'm wearing here. I do see that it does pick up some of the texture on my skin, not to the point where it's like particularly off-putting, but there are little bumps on my skin, and this is sort of highlighting those. But that's from me looking at it this close, and I tend not to get to people this close except for my children and my husband. So from like a respectable distance, you can't see any of that. So unless you're like super concerned about people being really up close to you, even like holding it just this far away, I don't see that texture issue even just from that far away. So I really don't view it as being a big deal, and I really just really think it's very, very pretty. It applied really nicely. It's not glittery. It doesn't chunk apart or anything like that. It just applies really smoothly. Overall, I do think it is a very, very pretty highlighter. The packaging in and of itself is beautiful. I love just classic, timeless kind of designs like this. Again, I love the rose gold element as well. Before we move on to the palette though, I just want to let you know that this retails for $42 US. All right, and there is the mini palette. This is the Mini Zendo palette. Rumor has it that Natasha Denona will be releasing a larger palette also for holiday a little bit later on. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a full-sized Zendo palette, whether it's called that or called something different. I just think that it would make sense to do this as almost like a complementary or sister palette to the Glam palette, which was very much a cool-toned palette. I think it would make sense to flesh this out a little bit more and then have a full-size palette with this kind of color story going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they release. At any rate, this, like I said, is the Mini Zendo palette. It says that it is an innovative, warm-toned palette that conceptualizes a mix of elements, an ambiance where wood meets metal and nature meets modern. I would never have come up with that on my own. Clearly I'm reading from the website. There are shade descriptions on the website, so I'm going to put up the swatches that I did and just sort of point as we go as well. So this shade over here, I'm going to start on this side. This is Stark, which is a medium dark cool burgundy. Next to it is one of the two mattes. This is Bare, which is a pastel pink. In the middle is Stripped, a warm silver. Next to it is Daz, a medium coral with light bronze shift. This one here. And then over here we have Uncovered, which is a dusty coral. Now you'll see as we do the eye look that I'm pleased that this says dusty coral because I didn't read any of these descriptions before I applied it, and that's sort of, I don't think I came up exactly with dusty coral, but in a lot more words than that, that's what I was describing. However, it could just be me. It really could just be me, but this silver came across as very cool toned to me, especially once it was paired with the other shades. So while they describe it as a warm silver, when it's combined with the other shades, I didn't find it to be particularly warm. But again, that just could be my own sense of interpretation. And I mean, swatched on the hand, it doesn't look nearly as icy as it did on the lid, but we will see that when we get into the eye demo, which we will do momentarily. Before we do that, I just want to let you know that the palette retails for $25 US, and it is also now available on the Sephora website. I will give my final thoughts on the application process and the experience that I had with the eyeshadow palette after we take a look at how I created this look. Here we go. Hi. Okay, So we've got the palette here. As you can see, there's 5 shades. You've got 2 mattes and then 3 shimmer shadows. I'm going to go in with this matte shade here and put that all throughout the crease and blend it up. Okay, I'm going to go in with this brush here. This is from Delium Tools and it is the 785 Tapered Blending Brush. If I haven't said it already, I do have my eyes primed with the Gerard Cosmetics Clean Canvas base, and I did set it this time for no particular reason aside from the fact that I just kind of wanted to. So I did. Alright, so although this shade does look quite light in the pan, it is building up nicely on the eye. I was a little concerned when I first started blending it that it was just going to be my exact skin tone, but no, you can definitely see, especially compared to this eye, that it is there. It just offers a little bit of, I would say, sort of subtle definition. So then to add even more definition to the crease, I'm going to use the other matte shade over here, and this is the shade, I cannot read it, Uncovered. It's black letters on like a really deep brown backdrop, so it's really hard to read what these shades are. So I'm going to pick that up on this brush here. This is the 202 from BK Beauty, and I'm just going to run that through the crease as well and onto the outer portion of my lid. This shade is blending very nicely, and I really like the tone of it. Like, it's not quite red, it's not quite pink. What would you call that shade? I don't know what I would call that, but it's really pretty. It's like a really deep coral, but like with a brown aspect to it, but really subtle. I don't know how to describe that, but I really like that. It's really different. I'm going to leave the lower lash line until the end, but we're going to go in with these shimmer shadows. Let's keep it really simple so that we can see how these shades all apply and perform. So I'm going to go in with this middle shade here, and I'm just going to put that all over the lid. I'm going to pick it up on a flat shader brush. This is again from Delium Tools, and it is the number 773 Shading Blender. So I can feel a little bit of that shadow falling down onto my cheeks. I'm not necessarily surprised because I didn't tap off any excess. I almost said access. That would be related to my job, not related to eyeshadow. For those who don't know, I'm a family lawyer, so I deal with things like custody, access, all of that, all day, every day. And sometimes the words just carry over. It's really pretty, like that's a really pretty shade. I'm just not sure that I like it with these mattes. It's very cool toned compared to this shade here. So I'm going to change tacks, and I'm going to apply some of that other shimmery shade here, the peachy one. It is the shade, what the fuck is it? Daz. There you go. Sorry. I cannot read it on the back. I'm struggling so hard. All right, so I'm going to pick that up on the same brush. I'm just going to pat that over top of that other shadow and just try to bring a little bit of that peachiness to it. It's not doing what I want, so I might just go in with my finger. There, that's starting to tone down that silvery, like the coolness of the other shadow. There, I like that better. It's less of a harsh contrast. So let's go ahead and we'll put that plum shade on the lower lash line. All right, I'm going to pick it up on the BK Beauty 207 brush. It's just like a nice little pencil-y smudger kind of brush. This is a shimmery shadow, but it's not like glittery or anything, so I'm hoping that it's going to buff nicely along the lower lash line. Yeah, I normally stick to matte shadows under the lower lash line, but this one really isn't like super shimmery or anything of that sort, so there's a little bit of a reflect there, but blended out it has more of like a satin finish than like a foiled finish, so I don't feel that it looks strange under that lower lash line. But I am going to bring some of it up into the outer corner as well, up here, just to sort of ground the look a little bit more and tie it in with that lower lash line as well. And there we go. Now, because we didn't get to see that peachy shadow all on its own, I'm going to use that as my inner corner highlight for this look. To apply that, I'm going to use this brush here from MAC. It is the, I think it's the 219, but the number is scratched. I think it's a 219. And like I said, I'm just going to pick up that peachy shade and just place that in here. I love you.
Hello, people.
Somebody's getting ready for bed. There she is. Good night, my love.
Night, night, double boop.
Double boop. All right, and there it is with just a really simple straight line, no flick, no wing, no nothing, and then mascara. And I think it's really, really pretty. I think the shades blended really nicely. Like I said, I'm not super wild on that like straight silvery kind of taupe shade. I just don't think it goes really well with the matte shadows that are in here, but paired more so with that deep plum, I think it would look really pretty and they would complement each other nicely. So I am going to play around with it a bit and see what kind of look I can do with that silver. But for now, this is the first application that I have done with this palette, and I really like the quality of it. All right, so now the time has come for me to give you my final thoughts on the products. I will say with respect to the lipsticks, like I said earlier, they are incredibly comfortable to wear. The shades are fairly similar to each other, as you saw with the actual lip swatches, so if you want to save yourself some money, I don't think you necessarily need both of them, one over the other. I don't think you're really going to miss one versus the other, to be completely honest. With the highlighter, I think it's absolutely beautiful. It is a highlighter that I am going to reach for over and over again. I love how impactful it is on the cheeks. I love the tone of it. And while it does, like I said earlier, up close, show some of that texture that I do have going on my skin, from a distance, I'm looking down because I'm looking at my mirror sitting on my desk here. Even just from this distance, where it's maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet away from me, I can't see any of those issues with it. So it's sort of like when you look at yourself in a magnified mirror and you're like, dear God, there's a lot going on in my face. Maybe don't do that and you're okay. With respect to the eyeshadow palette, I love the performance of these shadows. The mattes blended really nicely, nothing got stuck or patchy, nothing just sort of moved around on the lids. The shimmer shadows were really easy to apply, particularly that silver. I do find with this little like pink duochrome kind of shade here, it was stubborn with a brush, so using a finger is probably going to be the best way to apply it. And then this deepest shade over here did blend out really nicely, and as I said, there was no glitter particles in it, so blending it along the lower lash line or into the outer corner, while it's not a matte shade, it still performs nicely. It just has a hint of a satin finish. So overall, I am very happy with this color story. I just need to work with this silvery kind of taupe shade here just to find what combination of colors is going to work best for my own personal preferences. But from a purely performance perspective, these shadows are not going to disappoint. I do really appreciate that at least her last 3 or 4 mini palettes at least have been very consistent in terms of their performance. I have found, particularly with some of her older palettes, that there has been a lot of a hit and miss kind of aspect to them. but she seems to be nailing it very consistently with the minis and also with those smaller full-sized palettes like the Glam and the Love palettes. I really enjoy the quality that is set out in those palettes. So overall, I have no regrets over this purchase. I am very excited about it. It was really the first holiday collection that I was like, yep, gonna buy it, have to have it. Like, I just fell in love with it instantly, and I really like the aesthetic of it, where it's not so wildly over the top with the holiday side of things that you feel like it's bound to holiday only. Think Too Faced with their palettes that they put out for the holiday season. I think this can work all times of the year. I think the color story is incredibly user-friendly, and I really like that they have tried to incorporate shades that are going to be flattering on a multitude of skin tones. So well done, Natasha Denona. Get a thumbs up for me. All right, and with all of that said, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next one. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.